Welcome back. We're going to talk about MYEFO. I do not want the government off the hook on the budget. The Treasurer today brought down his numbers. Deficit is higher. There's pressure on the forward estimate, so that's the money in the forward years in the next budget cycle. He has conceded there are big spending pressures for the government. They are in relation to defence, on health, on the NDIS and on aged care. Of course, I think there should be more money now for national security, but we'll pull that apart in coming days and weeks. Joining me now to assist in looking at this at a macro sense, a former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury Department, David Pearl. Have we got you there, David?
You do.
Terrific. I just want to ask you, I know we've talked about many other important things this week, but I don't want the budget to go unremarked. We've got the mid-year numbers out today. MYEFO's out. Give me your top-line view of what you heard from the Treasurer today.
Well, first let me say that I wouldn't have released MYEFO today, 3 days after the horrific attack, but let's put that to one side. I thought that was particularly cynical on the Treasurer's part. The top-line response to MYEFO, Peter, is that if the inflation fire is burning in Australia, as we've seen, this MYEFO pours fuel on it. I want to say to you and your listeners, completely disregard anything that's said about the forward estimates or the medium-term projections. It's complete fiction. I can unpack that in details. If we're concerned about an interest rate increase from the RBA board in February, we should be looking at how much spending the federal government is doing in the remaining part of this financial year. And MYEFO confirms that real spending, that's spending over and above inflation, will grow by 4.5% this financial year. So petrol's being poured on the flames. Just disregard the forward estimates, Peter. They're complete fiction.
Yeah, I said they're fiscal astrology and about as reliable as a fortune teller at the top of the program. Obviously, big there is defence. We need more of that, but that's not where the focus is. The government loves to spend money on the social care economy, I call it, the NDIS. Obviously, there hasn't been enough structural reform. I know these concerns, particularly about the cash rate likely to move next year. A lot of the banks are warning we're headed for rate rises in February. How much credence do you give that?
Well, I don't give a lot of credence to the bank economists, Peter, because 4 or 5 months ago they were all saying that interest rates would be 3% at the end of the year. I give credence to the fact that the RBA had not got underlying inflation within the target in February when it cut the cash rate before the election. And in the course of the year, Peter, with the Trump tariffs and with the recovery in domestic demand, the RBA board's got the calls wrong on several occasions. So we've got two culprits here. We've got an RBA board that's too political and, frankly, too close to the Treasurer and the government. Michelle Bullock needs to really re-establish credibility next year. And secondly, we've got a Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, who's increasing real spending by 4.5% this year, adding fuel to the fire.
What else struck you in the numbers today?
Well, I suppose that's the main thing. A real Labor Treasurer, Peter, like a Bill Hayden for Whitlam or Paul Keating, they would have seen the inflationary crisis and the supply-side crisis in the economy. You know what they would have done? I'm not talking about a Conservative Treasurer. I'm talking about a Labor Treasurer. They would have pledged to cut spending this year to take pressure off inflation down to 0 or 1% in real terms. They would have taken control of the NDIS and shut it to new members and then looked at ways to get less than profoundly disabled people out of this program, because the NDIS is going to kill Medicare. If anything's going to kill Medicare, it's the NDIS that's going to swallow up the budget. Thirdly, a real Treasurer would have convened a meeting with their state counterparts, Peter, and told them to rein in their spending to make Michelle Bullock's job easier. That's what a real Treasurer would have done. So I don't attach any importance to MYEFO. Jim Chalmers, everything he says about the budget is either a misstatement or a diversion. Look at the dollars going out the door and look at the absence of a real Labor Treasurer responding to inflation from Jim Chalmers.
That is a scarifying assessment, given you've come out of Treasury. I can't disagree with it, particularly because I think the reason why they're putting the money out the door in immediate spending is they are trying to buy votes in the hope that people don't blame the government for inflation. And I think that's where the political spin of this government, this Treasurer, this Prime Minister, the whole box and dice, all of them, is almost at epidemic levels. I've got to leave it there, David. I'm out of time, but thank you very much.